From the LA Times on Spectrum News 1, the Envelope Roundtable, presented by the Amazon original movie, Nanny, for your awards consideration in all categories, including Best Picture.
Everybody's film here, I thought, had really beautiful cinematography and art direction, clearly, but also just so so focused. I mean, everybody's made a film that is so uniquely itself.
From the Los Angeles Times, this is the Envelope Directors Roundtable. Our guest today, Rian Johnson, crafts a new tale of delightful murder and insightful social satire with Glass Onion, a knives-out mystery, reviving the detective Benoit Blanc for a new adventure set on a private island in Greece.
You must be really great at Clue, huh?
I'm very bad at dumb things.
Jordan Peele turns the alien invasion film Inside Out in the invigoratingly complex Nope, in which a brother and sister realize they are being targeted by a cloud that isn't just a cloud. Gina Prince-Bythewood continues to balance fine-tuned drama with hard-hitting action in The Woman King, the fact-based story of the Agoji, an all-woman warrior squadron set in the 19th century West African nation of Dahomey.
I have watched soldiers die because they did not have discipline.
Maria Schrader adapts the book She Said, the story of how reporters Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey exposed Harvey Weinstein's long history of sexual abuse into a gripping thriller.
I could search for any police complaints against Miramax or court records. Should I?
Yes.
Charlotte Wells makes one of the most acclaimed debut features of the year with Aftersun, which draws from her personal memories to explore transformative moments between a father and daughter at a Turkish holiday resort.
Okay, come on. Let's call that an early night. Fresh for tomorrow, okay?
No, I'm staying down here for a bit.
And Florian Zeller adapts his own stage play with The Son, in which a father starting a new family strives to give attention to his son from a prior marriage as the boy struggles with mental health issues.
Haven't I always done everything for you? I stayed with your mother for years for your sake. So why are you saying this? Why? Why? Tell me why.
Hello, and welcome to the Los Angeles Times Kitchen. This is the Envelope Directors Roundtable. I'm Mark Olson. Thank you all for being here today. I wanted to begin by talking about the element of fun in all of your movies, the way that even the most serious of dramas can still have elements of entertainment to them. Jordan, with Nope, you really explicitly, the movie is both this sort of enigmatic, challenging story and also this epic adventure tale. What made you want to sort of explore the tension between those two?
I knew first and foremost I wanted to do something big. I wanted to make a big spectacle, and then in building the script, I basically, I indicted myself. I looked at what it is about people that needs spectacle, that's addicted to spectacle, and so what I found was the layers underneath the story I was trying to tell was really about exploitation in this industry, what we're willing to do to seek out and sort of monetize the spectacle.
It's in a cloud. It's in a cloud.
OJ! It's in a cloud!
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I come from a comedy background, so at every step of the way, I am trying to entertain, I'm trying to make people happy, so that push and pull is just always there.
Because Maria, in a different telling, She Said, I think, would be a much drier sort of procedural about these two reporters just through their day-to-day as they report out this story. But you make the film into this really gripping thriller that has this very sleek, kind of fast energy to it. How did you sort of come to know that that's how you wanted the movie to feel?
Well, thank you. I was just telling Jordan, it's not long ago that I, for the first time, saw the movie with an audience, and I realized they're laughing in the beginning, and I love that very much. And I don't know how you feel, but actually, rhythm, little light moments, they come while making it. There are some little improvised moments in there, and And I feel I'm the first audience, and what resonates when I watch it, or when I say, oh, let's investigate this a little longer. Adam Shapiro, make a little joke, maybe, let's see what happens between husband and wife. And yes, it could have been, just following the investigation, but it's also about working women, juggling work and time for the children, having a different life, and we wanted to implement this, and we were lucky that Megan and Jodie entrusted us with also, including this other part of their life during these months of hunting the story.
What is it exactly that we're looking at here?
We're looking at extreme sexual harassment in the workplace. These young women walked into what they all had reason to believe were business meetings with a producer, an employer. They were hopeful. They were expecting a serious conversation about their work or a possible project. Instead, they say he met them with threats and sexual demands.
Charlotte, Aftersun, it's this drama about a father and a daughter, but there's something just so enveloping about the film. Like, it really draws audiences in. I mean, one review actually said it very nearly reinvents the language of film. And I want to know what it is how did you want to tell the story in the way that you did to really draw audiences in just by the sort of like the flow and the feel of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about lightness in these films, it was really about pulling out the warmth and the joy and the relationship. And one of the things that interested me in this story was the idea of a mutual, joyous, happy, fun, shared experience, and maybe slightly disconnected individual experiences, and that those two things were not necessarily mutually exclusive. And so to feel the individual struggles, particularly of the father, it really had to be intimate and warm, and that needed to be true of that relationship right from the beginning. I didn't want it to be about a father and a daughter who were disconnected and found connection over this holiday. I wanted it to be about two people who loved each other very much from the first frame. And I think just focusing on that and that intimacy kind of led to a certain style and tone that flowed through the rest of the film. And of course, you have this memory structure, which allows you to move a little bit more freely through place and time. But I think ultimately it comes down to the intimacy between those two characters.
We could get you singing lessons if you wanted to learn to sing.
Trying to tell me I can't sing?
No, I'm just saying anyone can learn if they put in the work.
Stop doing that.
Doing what?
Offering to pay for something when I know you don't have the money.
Even in a drama like The Sun, there still are lighter moments. I'm thinking specifically of Hugh Jackman dancing to It's Not Unusual. And is it something where you're really conscious of like wanting there to be lighter moments in the story, or do those just sort of naturally come out of the story that you're telling?
No, it's true that it was at least a funny moment for us to shoot, because Hugh Jackman is such a great dancer, but he was supposed to have like a slightly embarrassing dancing. So we discovered that to pretend not to know how to dance, you need to be a very good dancer to do that. But it was very funny, because the day we shot that scene, he came to me and said, "So I thought about an embarrassing movement," and he did it in front of everyone, and I said, "Try harder," and he tried harder, and at some point we find his hip sway. But it's true that to me, to entertain, as you said, what comes more from the relationship you try to create with the audience. I come from theater, and for me, I've spent so many years in a theater, feeling, experiencing the sharing of the emotion, and I think this is what is the most entertaining as a viewer, is when you are really part of the story, when you're in a position where you are in an active position, trying to experience the feelings and the journeys of the character. So I think that's, even though you are in a tragedy, can be compelling and entertaining just to experience something that is not your experience, but becomes your experience thanks to movie.
Hey, Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?
Yes, of course.
I'm disturbing you, aren't I?
No, not at all. Tell me.
Because Ryan, you've been really open that with Glass Onion and also with Knives Out that you wanted those to be
kitchen sink drama, just social issue movies.
But very audience-friendly, I don't want to say entertaining movies.
You can say it.
Well, I don't want it to sound in a pejorative way. And so what is it that why is that? Like, what is it in making those stories that makes you be so sort of audience first?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the root of it comes from my love of this genre, besides Agatha Christie's books, is sitting with my family around the TV watching Death on the Nile or Murder on the Orient Express, and just having so much fun watching those with my family, while at the same time being a kid and feeling like it felt like a very grown-up movie, like kind of the intrigue of that. But it all comes back, and these movies are, yeah, man. I mean, shout the word entertainment from the rooftops. That's what we're going for with these. I mean, they're very much are kind of, and for me, the pleasure of kind of diving into them and making them is that kind of the craft of trying to do that Hitchcock thing of really play the piano, and really get an audience engaged and see how you can ride those emotions and the kind of experience you can craft for it. I mean, that's what entertainment means to me. So yeah.
I'd love to have you visit me at my home. There, you've been invited. Well, you're an official guest now. Thrilled to have you. I mean, relax. Enjoy yourself. Hey, try to solve the murder mystery if you can. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's pretty next level.
Gina, the thing I find most remarkable about The Woman King is that it's a historical drama and it's this very exciting action film. And sometimes there's character beats, like story moments happening during the action sequences. Is that a hard balance to strike? I mean, in some ways you're making two films, but you've somehow unified them into this really exciting, single entity.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I think it goes back to my pitch for the film, which was intimately epic. And, and explaining to the studio what that means is really I wanted the quiet character moments to be as seismic as the set pieces.
All of your films have such just knockout performances, and to talk about that, maybe it's good to sort of just start with casting. I mean, Gina, I know that when you came to the project, Viola Davis was already attached, and I imagine she's an actor who attracts other actors. And what was it like having to build the rest of your cast around her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think they all came to work with me, but they wanted to work with Viola. And I mean, I wanted to work with Viola. She is an absolute magnet. She is great, and how often you get to touch greatness. And so for the actors to come aboard and be able to be in that type of environment, she's the type of actor that she just inspires. She pulls you in. She wanted to feel like a true ensemble and not Viola Davis.
Your tears mean nothing. To be a warrior, you must kill your tears.
I wanted actors who were great at craft that I knew could go toe-to-toe with her, but also you're portraying warriors. And I knew from the outset that they were going to be doing their own fighting and stunts. So I had to believe and trust that you were going to put the work in to be able to do that. And that takes a certain type of actor. Not everyone is willing to go for months on end, 6 days a week, 2 times a day, training. But again, being in that environment and seeing Viola at 56, doing that, it's really hard to say I'm too tired.
Florian, I understand Hugh Jackman sent you a letter sort of pitching himself for the role, and that there's something really endearing about that for an actor of his stature to sort of be really putting himself out there like that.
Yeah, that's true. It happened that way. It was very surprising. I was at the beginning of the process. I had only one actor on board, Anthony Hopkins. Actually, he's the first one who read the script when I finished it. He has this small part, but I wanted him so much in this film. And also to make a film is such a sentimental experience, a journey. that we were so connected after The Father, with the film we did together. So I sent him the script, and 3 hours later, he called me back and said, "Oh, I read it and I want to do it." So it was the quickest cast, but he's so generous and intuitive.
What?
Is that why you came to see me? To tell me what a good dad you are?
No.
Obviously it is. You came to show me irrefutable proof of your moral superiority, is that it?
Charlotte, Aftersun is in part based on your own experiences. And what was that like, having to cast this role of a father and a daughter that are, in some part, yourself and your own father? Were you looking for the people that reminded you of you, or did you want the people that sort of least reminded you of you?
I wanted the people who least reminded me of me, and I got the people who I think are fairly close in actuality. And when casting, I think for the father, it was actually harder to cast away, even though it is always my intention, if there is a foundation of self in a project to cast away, it was hard to, I think. The daughter, I really tried to cast as far away as possible. And I cast somebody that my mother mistook for me at the film's premiere, despite the fact that she is 12 years old. And then she, after we finished shooting, went to the hairdresser and took a picture of me and stole my haircut, to the point where we were truly just doppelgangers.
You okay through there?
I don't know, I guess. I just feel a bit down or something.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
What attracted me to Paul specifically is he has this openness and warmth and charm and physicality that felt important and true and essential, especially to allow Callum's private struggle to be surprising. And in Frankie, we just found a star, I think.
Rian, you had a challenge where you're writing, you have Daniel Craig returning as Benoit Blanc, but then you're writing this sort of whole new cast of eccentric characters.
With Daniel, it was weird having his performance from the first movie in my head. I think for him too, he's talked about how he had to kind of relearn the accent from scratch because he didn't want to just be doing an imitation of the first one. It would get way too Kentucky Fried very quickly, I think, if it started piling on top of itself. So yeah.
I am mortified. I don't...
Why? I've got the pre-definite detective in the world at my murder mystery party. That is so legit.
Mr. Braun, I've learned through bitter experience that an anonymous invitation is not to be trifled with.
Jordan, you did write with Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya in mind. What were you going to do if they weren't available or didn't respond to the material?
If they weren't available, I would have cast someone else and would have probably the movie would have ended up being somewhat different, I think, because I think there is a bit of a matchmaking I'm trying to do with a character and an actor. I feel like so much of all of the hiring when you're making a film, but certainly with the cast, it feels like, you don't just, it's not just about having a great actor and a great character. It's like the best is when it really is somebody for whatever reason, at the point in their career where this is exactly what they want and exactly what they need, and it's a timing thing.
That's big.
How big?
Big.
What'd it look like?
I don't know. It was fast. Too fast. Too quiet to be a plane.
OJ, are you saying what I think you're saying?
And then their performances sort of answer the question for itself, but why them? What was it about Daniel and Keke that made you want to work with them for this project right now?
They're just two of the best actors I've ever seen, and I did feel like I had characters for them that would be my favorite characters to see them portray. I think they kind of both Daniel's character OJ and Kiki's character Emerald sort of represent two sides of myself in a way. There's the guy that sort of is afraid of attention, that's like, wrote Get Out because I have a fear of too much attention, and then there's the Kiki version. There's the Key and Peele me that wants nothing more than to, dress up in some prosthetics and dance in front of, the world. And so I'm this kind of dualistic character, and I think they're like, if you put them together, that's like my ideal self.
Stay tuned for more when we return.
We found the boys. They're alive.
Based on the incredible true story.
How do you think we're gonna get those kids out?
From Academy Award winner Ron Howard.
We could use a couple more divers.
A tale of hope and the power of the human spirit.
Whole thing is insane. We're desperate.
One of Ron Howard's best films.
It's our only chance.
13 Lives, rated PG-13, for your consideration.
Welcome back. This is the Envelope Directors Roundtable. Maria, the story of She Said obviously is, based on the book, and these are real events. I think most everyone involved in the story is still living. Did that put any kind of additional pressure on you as a filmmaker?
Not at all. I had to remind myself.
But did you feel that there was still room for some kind of dramatic license, or like, how did you feel somehow married to the facts of the book and the actual story?
A very good question. Well, first of all, coming from Europe, I was amazed what was possible, to use all these names, to use all these stories. And of course, there was a Dee Gardner, kind of the mother of this project, had been on the road with it a long time, and I was sent probably the third draft of the script, so that she, had already extensively talked to the survivors, to the New York Times, to people involved, to, of course, Rebecca Lenkiewicz, the scriptwriter as well. There was still room to talk about the script, and we had extensive Zoom meetings, and then, we adapted things here and there, also for locations. There are a lot of layers of truth there, right? And we tried to stick to the source material as closely as we could. At the same time, it's a pure factual report. It's a journalistic report of how the story came about, and the film adds what's left unwritten, and what's with the silence between the words, the doubts, the feelings, and the emotion,
Jodie, this is bigger than Weinstein. This is about the system protecting abusers. I want you to take these, and I want you to use them.
Talking about the truth, you have Ashley Judd in there, too.
Yes.
Like, her involvement in it, was she there from the beginning, or was it like the film where you had to get that yes?
She was just talking on stage at the New York Film Festival 2 weeks ago, and she said it was very easy for her, and she wanted to do that. And I thought it's something very unusual, right? It's almost like in the theater, you pull down the fourth wall, right? It's
she's playing herself.
Yeah, she's playing herself. She's telling her story, and that is, of course, also taking ownership of this is the way I want to portray myself and how I lived through that, and I want to contribute to this whole project. Yes, as I said, that was the initiative, Dee Jeremy, taking on this project and basically having it being very inclusive and in a dialogue with a lot of people.
Gina, as Woman King was coming out, there was a lot of conversation and some controversy around the depiction of the historical accuracy of the depiction of the Kingdom of Dahomey. And most of that came from people who had not actually seen the film. Were you surprised by that? I mean, was that a conversation you were sort of ready to have as the movie was coming out?
I think anytime you do a historical epic, someone's going to pop their head up and say something's not truthful. But, as you said, so much of that was before the film came out. And it's like once you see the film, the things that they thought we weren't going to deal with, we absolutely deal with. So, but the thing about this film is that the history it's based on, so much of what is written, like if you go on Wikipedia, is actually not the truth. And that's the difficult thing. I think all of us, when you take on a film, it's the research part of it is the fun part, and the deep dive that we did in actually talking to historians and academics and ancestors of these women and people of this kingdom. Like you're getting the truth from that side as opposed to the truth that's been written essentially from those who tried to oppress this kingdom. Of course, they're going to portray them in a way that makes them look good. And so to be able to separate that negativity and be able to portray this kingdom and these women in the right way, that's what we were here for, to bring humanity to these people that history has not shown them.
Because Rian, it seems like the sort of behind the scenes of the making of Glass Onion, these like cast mystery parties that have actually already kind of become a part of the lore of the movie. And do those kind of things, like what do you do, or how do you sort of help create that chemistry among the cast? Because it does seem almost like with these pictures, it's almost like you're putting together like a really fantastic cocktail party.
It feels a bit like, there's that element to it, definitely. You kind of have to, you always, I think, try and amp up the no rule as best you can. But with an ensemble piece, like a true actual ensemble piece, it's really important, especially when you're going to go off on location. How long were you guys in South? How long was your shoot? You were in South
5
Africa.
months.
That kind of like camp environment, I think, just bonds everybody together also, right? Yeah. But we were in Greece and then Belgrade, and it was at the height of the Delta surge, and so the numbers were really bad. And trying to keep everyone safe, so. I feel like I should probably lie and say that it was like a mastermind thing to try and strategically bond. The reality is we were stuck in a hotel together in Belgrade, and we just got drunk together on the weekends to blow off steam, and it had the nice side effect of everybody liking each other, and hopefully that turns up on the screen.
Every single one of you is holding on for dear life to Miles Brine's golden. And each of you, you'll stab a friend in the back to hold on. That is what I believe.
And Rian, did you organize that type of party, or did any of the actors kind of, elevate to I'm going to be the game master?
It was I would write invitations for everyone and slip them under there. Yeah, we tried to like make it fun and kind of, again, because you feel bad you brought all these people out to Eastern Europe and then stuck them in the hotel. But then it started gaining steam, and then it was Kate and Leslie took it really seriously. Mm-hmm. They really take their mafia game seriously.
Florian, as you mentioned, you have a background in theater. You're also a novelist before you moved into cinema. For you, like what keeps you doing all those different things?
I don't know, and I'm trying to look for the answer. That's why maybe I'm doing things. But no, it's true that I come from theater, but my Hugh Jackman, because I was mentioning him, he comes from theater as well, and strangely, we made a decision not to use this continuation, meaning that to do no rehearsal. I really wanted to discover things in the now, on set, all together, and somehow to try to leave a room for the unawareness, I would say, in order to, not to have preconceived thoughts about what we were trying to achieve.
I have the right to reinvent my life. Fuck, it's my life, you hear me? It is my life.
In terms of discovering the performance on set. Was that on camera, or did you have time before?
No, it was before. We rehearse every day,
you would
every
rehearse
morning.
every day?
Yeah, but sometimes I use the camera as well.
Yeah.
You know, to have like the opportunity also to catch or to see something that you know, again, you are not aware of. For example, there is at some point there is like a gunshot in the story, and they didn't know that it was going to happen, and so we did just like a false rehearsals for the camera, you know, because it was one take, and I asked them just to do the line for the camera team, you know. But I knew that at the end of that moment the gunshot will appear, so that they had to deal with it, you know. Something happened, and they have to, the horror or the terror you can feel was like what they had to deal with in the moment, you know. And they had to make the decision to stand and to run and to do something with it, you know, with this feeling, because I wanted to find something truthful here, not just to pretend to go through this horrible moment, but somehow to embrace it.
Jordan, in some of the behind-the-scenes material for Nope, it's interesting where it's an alien invasion movie, and yet your sort of like alien creature still has some basis in like science and reality. And was that fun for you to like be able to say like, this is what my movie Alien is going to be like?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, it's always been a dream of mine to design an alien. The unique challenge of this alien, whose name is Jean Jacket, if you haven't seen it, is that I wanted to make an alluring, sort of beautiful spectacle. I wanted to create a creature that you would have hard time not looking at. Especially when it's sort of presenting itself and kind of peacocking a bit. So yeah, I mean, there's spoiler alert, by the way. But no, there was a bit of this film. I think was sort of taking on this notion that we really will overthink things. We really will make things. We'll presume that a disc in the sky is from some civilization, you know, light years away that's trying to communicate with us or trade technology or kill us, and so a lot of the reveal in this movie is kind of basically me saying, what if it's just nope? What if it's much simpler and darker and colder and scientific, and there's no communication? This thing's gonna eat you.
Oh, God. Something very bad is happening.
The craft of pulling something off this big that was a whole different challenge. So I had to, you know, enlist the help of Hoyte van Hoytema, sort of my cinematographer, or the great cinematographer. He really pushed forward the technically movie making and for our ability to do these night scenes. So he reinvented the day for night, which is a technique that you shoot in the day and you do a little color correction and you portray it at night. You know, what Hoyte did was he developed a system wherein we're using infrared information, an infrared camera. And so ultimately, and with Guillaume Rocheron, our VFX coordinator, the idea was build a night that actually feels like you're out in the middle of nowhere and your eyes are dilated. Mm-hmm. Your pupils are dilated, so you can actually see. And so, you know, what people don't realize about this film is like the nights, those were shot in the daytime through this really crazy process. Oh. And then, you know, what the VFX team, you know, does with that information is also a whole different tapestry. So all this is to say that, you know, you say I want to make an alien, you know, I want to make a monster movie, and the challenges that this opened up, and granted, I wanted to do something big, I wanted to do something kind of awe-inspiring, but the challenges that open up that you're not even expecting are monumental. And that's when I think about the adventure of making Nope, you know, I'm going to think about all the things that people told me were impossible, that I was able to find people who told me it's not impossible. I have a way to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel like the extreme preparation is what allows you to roll with the extreme punches. Because our plan, like, we were very, I mean, it's really semantic. We're like, we have no rules, but we had strategies.
Yeah.
But if a strategy wasn't working, and like many of these were tied in my film to point of view and perspective, and if something wasn't working, plan B was always do what feels right. But the only way you can know what feels right is to put in the work to understand, you know, your visual language within the film.
So would you story, because what you capture, and to me it's like a magic trick, is so you're capturing just this delicate sort of emotional relationships between people and kind of the unsaid, and it's very, it feels so, it feels like kind of putting a frame around smoke or something, the way like, but so how do you shot list, do you think, in terms of visually, do you think, how much do you come in?
Yeah, I mean, like, storyboarding we did only for scenes that were a bit more technical. We storyboarded the rave sequences, and by I mean my very talented cinematographer, who's also a very talented artist, among many other things. But no, we shot listed. But in shot listing, which started months before production, like Gregory Oak, my cinematographer, is like kind of my longest standing, closest creative collaborator, and it's really a script discovery process too. And he's very thorough and holds me to account with the script, and that's always the starting point. And by the time we had got into kind of a third of storyboarding, the first 20% was irrelevant, because we'd kind of figured out what we were doing as we'd go, and our understanding of perspective really developed. And he actually put together this unbelievable document about different points of view in the film based on the conversations we'd had around storyboarding.
Wow.
And it like painted and storyboarded sequences and drew a lot of references together. That was kind of our guide.
Rian, I feel like with Glass Onion that as much as it's fun to talk about sort of like the story mechanics or these eccentric characters, these movies are actually very personal to you, that you're still expressing a lot of your own sort of like concerns. And is that a challenge? Like how do you sort of like keep the sort of like personal aspects of these stories alive?
No, I mean, like, you know, like Jordan said, that's kind of just an essential element of, I think, anything. I mean, I'm not sure how any of us could jump into the amount of work it takes to do one of these things and not have something you deeply care about at the heart of it. So, I mean, and I mean, for me, it's even in something like this, where it's woven hopefully into the texture of what's a grand entertainment first and foremost, it's got to be there. And I mean, the whole starting point for these mystery movies were being a huge fan of the genre, but also feeling like at any time I would watch them, they would be period pieces set in England. And the notion of, and which was, it's not like, you know, why aren't I seeing, you know, Today up there or something? Why I want to see cell phones in them. It was more about the murder mystery by its nature is such a brilliant delivery device for talking about what's happening. It's a brilliant little fishbowl microcosm encased in this kind of candy shell of a fun mystery, and the fact that it felt like a gun without bullets. You know, just the fact that we weren't using it to kind of talk about what's actually happening right now. So that was kind of the starting point for Knives Out, not just in like a message way about talking about, you know, political or societal stuff or anything like that, but also just personal, the way that, I mean, the first movie is very much about politics and family and how the political has become so personal for all of us magically within the past years, you know. Anyway, so it's all baked in there, but the fact that the genre itself is kind of designed to do that, and I didn't feel like it had been doing that for a while, was kind of the starting point.
You know, Rian, he was gracious enough to invite me to the set of Star Wars, and I had asked him, how do you not get overwhelmed by the bigness of all of this? And And he said that it doesn't matter how much money you have and how big it has to be, you have to always start with story. And I've never forgotten that. And that certainly drove this, because when you read these things on the page, it is like, how am I going to capture that? But when you start to break it down of what it's about, what is that intimacy within this big scope, then it's exciting, because you know you're creating something character-based, you're creating an emotion. And with Polly, it was the same, I think, that we all have. It's so fun to just be locked together every moment in the car, on the weekends, just talking about what is this going to feel like, what is this going to look like. And she was phenomenal, and I love that we both came from smaller films, because you want to keep that mentality. Like, it's weird, the bigger they get, it seems like everything is more structured, and they don't. I love the mentality of, oh wait, I just saw something, let me go run and capture that, where everything is so scheduled, because the money is so big and the schedule's so tight, but I never want to lose that excitement of being able to chase something that you saw, because that's, I think, what makes great directing, is being open to the unexpected.
I was, blown away by the scope of what you and your team did as well. I mean, just like what Rian said, I'm like, how do you do that? How do you? That was good insight with the character, driving the battles through character. If I ever do a battle movie, that's how I'm going to look at it, because you watch The Woman King. If there were, I don't remember scenes where it's fighting because it's fighting, right? You're always watching someone on their journey. That's really brilliant.
Yeah.
And brilliantly how that informed the cinematography too, because it does, like you're saying, it feels expansive, feels so huge, probably because of the intimacy of the camera work and the use of that smoke and everything.
I feel like I'm cutting you all off. This has been such a fun conversation, but this is where we're going to have to wrap it up. I thank all of you for being here today, and for the Los Angeles Times and The Envelope. I'm Mark Olson. Thanks for watching.
From the LA Times on Spectrum News 1, the Envelope Roundtable was presented by the United Artists Releasing, Orion, and MGM Studios film, Women Talking, for your awards consideration in all categories.